Ever heard of the no-end house? It's 6 rooms. Each is supposed to be scarier than the last. Everybody who goes in describes it totally different. It messes with you psychologically.
Your house gets in your head, finds your weaknesses.
And welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is...
Bryon Kazaska.
Hi, Bryon.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
I'm great. I could listen to that whole song.
I know.
Chrysta Bell, she is amazing.
She's so good.
So here we are, part 122.
What episode? 122? Man, we're moving and chugging along, and people always say to us, you know, are you going to keep doing a weekly show? And yeah,
this is our last show.
Yeah, this is our last show.
It's been fun.
It's been fun.
Actually, there's nothing else to this show, so we're just gonna say goodbye now, and you're just listening to about a minute of our show here.
Oh my God, Ben.
We've got a great show today.
We do.
We have... All right, we're on the phone with Harley Peyton, executive producer and writer of Channel Zero, and we also know him from Twin Peaks as a writer and producer. Hi, Harley.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So, boy, there's so much to talk about. I guess I want to start with Twin Peaks.
Yes.
I mean, you were involved with the season 2 with the ending, and there was all kinds of cliffhangers, and so I'm so curious to know what you think of this new series, 2017 Twin Peaks.
I mean, my feelings about it have kind of evolved over time, over the watching of it. I mean, I think that coming to it, it was hard not to have a series of expectations relating to, okay, what's everybody doing? Right? What is every character doing this many years later, understanding that certain characters are just not going to be there, but still that expectation. And I think that was the toughest hurdle that Mark and David probably had to kind of jump over. And they didn't jump over it, they just blew it up. So there wasn't really, and so I had to go through this kind of grieving process of like, I don't know, Dougie, what the fuck is happening? and it just took me a while to get into the world as they wanted to. You know, it clearly wasn't the series that I wanted. Oh, well, who knows? But I wanted to do. It was the series that they wanted to do. And once I made that bargain, I then went through this 18 hours, you know, for the most part, pretty transported by it. I mean, there were certainly times when I went, oh man, pick up the pace. But you know, because they wrote whatever it was, 10 hours worth of scripts, and there was 18 hours of show. Yeah. So that certainly meant there were going to be a lot of moments where David was going to go off on a walkabout, and for me, you just never know. Sometimes that's brilliant. I thought the penultimate episode was just stunning. And I thought David's direction, it had all these echoes of like Douglas Sirk movies with those black and white compositions. I mean, it was so amazing to me. And that was really, particularly David as director, at his best. And then the last episode I was less fond of. Yeah. You know, because you never know with David. So and even though I was sort of on board for the idea of a Laura Cooper road trip, it didn't land for me, quite frankly. But overall, I had a great time. I mean, listen, there's very few shows that I go, okay, it's Sunday night, I got to watch. And obviously, I have all those emotional connections to it in the past. And Mark Frost and I talk, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. So there was plenty for us to talk about, although it's usually politics. But so, you know, it was fascinating for me, and it was great to see the various performances. I mean, Kyle was amazing.
He was.
But, you know, I'm sitting there going, Norma and Hank at long last.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Norma and Ed, right? Me, Norma and Ed, they so deserve each other.
Yeah. And for me, there's just times when that's what I wanted. I wanted some of the Badalamenti old music cues even.
True.
And so that it was, again, I would say it's a complicated viewing experience. and also I think it probably has more to do with Fire Walk with Me than the original series in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Certainly stylistically. But there's something amazing about it, and once again, nothing else like it on television.
Nothing like it.
And it was clear that, I mean, it was easy to say that about the original Twin Peaks, but coming back all these years later, obviously with the things that are happening in TV now, and I'm watching Legion and all these various shows, it was a lot harder to kind of expect that once again it would be well beyond what's currently being done. But that's exactly what they did, and that in and of itself is pretty amazing.
It was such an undertaking. I mean, it's something, and we just talked to Sabrina Sutherland, and it was just interesting to hear that, like, David Lynch was involved with everything, like, from, of course, with working with Mark on the writing, but then to be the sets and the clothing, and he was even at one point editing the show himself.
At the very end,
That is something else. Oh, man. I was actually talking to a friend, Eben, who was saying how he missed your writing, though. Like, he loved what you did on the original series. And I still love just to give yourself a gift every day. But there were so many things. And it's just 2017 is just a different beast. It's just a different animal. It's something different. But you brought something really special to the original series with your writing.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was just a different show. And listen, I remember when Mark called me up and said, "Look, I just want you to be the first one to know that David and I wrote all these scripts." And listen, it's hard to complain about that. So so I ended up coming to the third season really just as a viewer with some special interests, I guess. But yeah, it was listen, working on that original show was a great opportunity, and it allowed me to write things that I have had little opportunity to write since in a lot of ways. So that's been great for me. And I obviously I'm very flattered, and it's great to hear nice things about my original work. I'll always have a sort of odd place in this ecosystem, because coming from that first original experience, and then now you've added this third season, which I suspect will be the last. But again, clearly never say never when it comes to Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
No, David Lynch just came out and said, if there was a season 4, it would be a couple years down the road.
And it took them like 4.5 years to with the script and to do all that. So I guess that makes sense.
And they're not getting younger. So
well, yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was to me one of the open questions when they started. I mean, David hadn't directed in earnest in I think over 10 years. So it's pretty amazing when you think of just that feat, and I think it's because he just approaches it in his own way. I that maybe it's less stressful for him than it is for other people, but that's an enormous undertaking. And so for him to do that, and even the things that I didn't like, forget that. Just the fact that this thing held together like that from a directorial perspective. I mean, there's some amazing stuff along the way. I mean, episode 8 is one of the most amazing hours of television I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
And I mean, so you can't help but just kind of look at that with a great deal of admiration. Always understanding how important Mark is to that process, and that's really the point. I mean, it's whether the two of them will come back together to do this again, or because it wouldn't be Twin Peaks if it wasn't both of them. And that's about their lives too. So it's really just about what as you say. Yeah, maybe it would take 4 years, maybe not. I mean, the thing about actually either the 17th or 18th episodes, it wasn't like either of them gave you a sort of ramp to another season, but neither did they feel like an ending in a lot of ways. Although I thought that beautiful sequence where then suddenly you got gone fishing, and there's all those characters, and there's Josie looking in the mirror. She's out of the she's out of the bureau knob. And it was so great to see them, and it was beautifully sort of colored. And and that moment where wrapped in plastic, where it vanishes, I just thought that was stunning.
Yeah, it was.
And I know that's something that Mark had thought a lot about, and so that you could certainly say that felt like an ending. Then you had the next hour, which felt a little tacked on to me, and and that also got you a different perspective, sort of on the same notion that Cooper's trying to go back to the past to fix things in a way.
Yeah. But I was going to say with 17, I still can't tell. Some people think that Cooper altered history, and I kind of feel like he was trying to do that with pulling Laura, and then Laura got away and didn't change history. But how would you? Did Laura not die?
What I think it was open. I think it's open to interpretation. As they were doing it, I was thinking, oh wow, he's Jeffries has helped him go back in the past, and he's now going to lead her away. Yeah. And you do have her, her body disappearing on the beach.
Right.
So in theory, Pete doesn't discover it that morning. But I don't think it's like, so Laura grew up to be a high school teacher, and in other words,
Yeah.
It's never that simple in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
And I suspect that who is it who descended to the underworld and don't look back? Is that Orpheus? It's Orpheus.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
It's that myth. It's a little bit like that, and I just feel like I think there's a price to be paid, and you could hear it in her scream and when she vanishes, and I think it was an imperfect act of heroism that I think it's left open ended and left that way on purpose.
Yeah.
And the 18th hour sort of amplifies that in some ways. I mean, it's really the same thing all over again, just from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally trying to take her home. So it's it to me it was unnecessary. But having said that, yeah, I don't think in either case, you're not going to get a soft landing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we got that.
And just to me, there was still these cliffhangers. And I almost felt like, with Mark, he had said that in the first season they purposely left it open in the hopes of season 2. Season 2, they purposely left it open in the hopes of season 3. And I guess I wanted to believe it's like, well, maybe they're purposely leaving things open in the hopes of another season. But I don't know.
I don't think they think that way. I know Mark doesn't, and I doubt that David does.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely did originally. There's no question about that. But I think in this case, it was such a unique opportunity, and it really felt like a single opportunity. So I think that the things that feel like cliffhangers in this third season are really just loose ends that they either didn't want to tie up or didn't have the time to.
Okay.
That just for me and that's me as a viewer. That's not having special information, but I just felt like there were certain questions that were begged, or Richard and Linda, for God's sakes. But I mean, all these various. These things are kind of thrown out, and some of them are just David. I mean, David's working on the fly. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think there's a little bit of that too. The one thing about Twin Peaks is it was never made with the sort of care, and this isn't a criticism, but with the sort of care that's brought to kind of regular television shows, where everything is mapped out and you can't leave the audience with any questions that might irritate them. You've got to answer every question. You've got to cross every T and dot every I. Now, people have gone away from that. I mean, Damon Lindelof does it in all his work. So, and he always cites Twin Peaks as a huge influence.
Yeah.
And so I think that's always the way it was, and it was certainly that way with this third season. There are just certain things that that you're not going to get answers for, and that's okay, right? I mean, to me, the bigger questions, most of the questions that I really wanted answered were answered. Maybe not Audrey Horne so much, but, but most of them were.
Yeah. Being a fan
sometimes I feel like David gets in a narrative cul-de-sac and he goes, fuck it, just scream, and then I guess you're done.
Right.
But yeah, so there's some things, but again, to me, it does in a weird way. The math of it adds up. So I was happy with that.
Yeah. You mentioned Audrey. That was another thing that you were good with your writing. You really had a great thing with writing with Audrey and Cooper together. And that's what I was really, really hoping. Even if it took to 18, I was hoping we'd have some kind of exchange with the two of them. But
you would think. Listen, in this case, I am not privy to the sort of backstage stuff, but that really it almost feels like she was on vacation and came back and they went, okay, we got to figure out Audrey's story.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't feel that, I mean, it was kind of fascinating and weird and who knew what was going on, but it also felt completely distant from the rest of the show.
Yes.
And I loved seeing it. And I thought she was wonderful. And I all that stuff was really fun. But again, I don't know the reasons for it, but yeah, of course, I mean I think the things, if I thought about things I missed the most, it would be that and no Heather Graham. I mean, that to me.
We thought it would be a surprise. We thought we were going to get Heather.
Yeah, I really wanted Annie.
I thought maybe I think I must have known in advance because they kept publishing those cast lists. But yeah, that was one. And again, I don't, I've never heard of a reason why she wasn't in there. But, there's those, it's funny. I ran into Lonnie Von Dolan recently and he was saying, God, if only my character hadn't died. So it's, but there are certain people obviously are not going to be back. But yeah.
And as you were watching this new series, were there scenes where you say, "Oh, that's definitely Mark Frost"? Like I know you mentioned last time about Wally Brando that was
absolutely
really him. Yeah. Were there other things that you saw? It's like, oh, that's definitely Mark's
work.
Certainly there's certain moments of dialogue where it seems very clear to me. Also, some conceptual things. I mean, episode 8. I mean, it was, I think, one of those really rare moments when every cylinder is firing and the two of them are in kind of perfect sync.
Yeah.
And I think that whole notion of the atomic bomb tests and the way that links to other things, that's, to me, classic Mark.
Yeah.
And because I know he thinks a lot about that stuff, and actually in his book, you get a sense of that stuff too. That
Yes.
the Twin Peaks book that he wrote.
Right.
So that to me, it's funny because so many people watched that episode and talked about David's bravura directing, and it was amazing. But for me, that conceptually, it was like, that's Mark. I mean, I know it. I mean, that's just I could feel that. I also felt that a lot in episode 17. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I felt like that penultimate episode really felt like that was where he wanted to go. And listen, there's always a push and pull between the two of them, and they've had a pretty unique creative relationship. So, and there are going to be moments when one seems to step forward. I mean, I think season 3, because David's directing was so much more like Wild Earth than the original Twin Peaks. I mean, it was much more stylized, and he had a lot more money to work with.
Right.
So I think that was inevitable in its way. Not necessarily a bad thing at all. I mean, it was beautiful to look at. I mean, there were truly some amazing, amazing things in it. And Mark had his great cameo, so I was happy to see that as well. Walking his dog through the woods. But, so that was sweet. I like that.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So when this comes out, it's going to be the week of Channel Zero coming out. So that's really exciting. Can you share, for people who don't know Channel Zero, and this new season is the No End House. Can you share with people, tell people what that's about?
Yeah, this is the second 6 that we put together. We've done 6. We've shot now 3 6-episode stories. There's a 4th one where the scripts are about to be written. This is the second one. I gotta say, this is my favorite, and they're all super cool, but I think this one is just awesome. And it starts out as a sort of classic, in a way, haunted house story, which is to say, 4 kids are going to this Halloween house, this No End house that has this weird reputation. It tends to show up in places when no one's looking for it. And it's like an art installation in many ways. And there's a certain number of rooms, and if you can get through every room, you sort of win a prize, right? And the notion is that the rooms will be increasingly terrifying, and that ultimately, in this case, there's a huge twist which I will not reveal, which leads us into the series. But what's lovely about it is that you take that kind of you take that idea, which is just one of the creepypasta stories. And then you start to think about, okay, well, I guess there'll be jump scares, and what's room 1, what's room 2. But as is always the case, Nick Antosca has such a unique vision about this stuff. I mean, and I really do. It sounds absurd to say, but I feel like there's that kind of indie horror genre. And I think that Nick is one of the foremost practitioners of it at the moment. Yeah. I mean, he really has a way of looking at horror differently than I think what we expect. And No End House is a perfect example of that. And every room in that house is, in its way, a kind of oddly creepy, terrifying art installation. And it's not about, monsters jumping out of corners or jump scares, or it's this very unique thing that Nick spends a whole lot of time thinking about and putting into practice. Wow. So, it's going to be great. I think it's wonderfully directed. The performances are amazing. I do think it's my favorite of the 4, although, you never know, that can shift.
I love Candle Cove. I thought you did a great job on it last year, and my wife and I enjoyed it. We watched it every week. It was so good. And
cool.
And this one you're doing 3. You're right. You're writing 3 episodes, right? 4.
Yeah, I think I wrote. I mean, it's a while back now, but I think one of the things we do a lot on that show is we write episodes together, because it's quick. And listen, like I did with Bob Engels back on Peaks. Right. So I'm used to that, and so I think my name's on about 3 of them. There's 3 of the scripts that I worked on this set. I mean, the great thing for me is that because I was running the room, I almost feel like my larger contribution is just is putting the larger story together. I mean, that's really what my job is on that show, in a way that, for example, it really wasn't on Twin Peaks. It allows me to kind of shape it in ways, and then Nick comes in and then he reshapes it and we figure it out. And it was just a great process. I've had so much fun working on that show, and again, I'm very eager. I try not to get too. I don't look at cuts because I just want to see it, fresh for the first time, and that's what I'll be doing next week.
Nice.
Yeah, and I want to congratulate you. You're now executive producer. You've got that title now. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
So cool. Yeah.
It's a big promotion. I'm thrilled.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you don't want to get into next year, but next year's already called Butcher's Block. I mean, that
yes.
probably be. Can you even say it probably be around the same time? Or I know you go back and forth.
You know what? You never know. It keeps going back and forth. There's always this, and I'm sure. Listen, to a certain extent, it will depend on the ratings.
Yep.
I can tell you right now, I think like the first one, this one will be very well reviewed, and that's something that the network likes a lot.
Yeah.
I've already read a couple raves that are really great, and I suspect when that happens, if that's combined with ratings like last time, once again we're going to go through the same thing where it's going to go, well, maybe we should show it in the spring as well as the fall. Yeah. That's a network decision, and they kind of flirted with it last time and then didn't. I certainly understand them liking to have, it's like one of their Halloween events every year. So,
right.
We'll see. But yeah, the third one is done. And then Butcher's Block, which I think of the four is no question the weirdest one. I mean, it is completely bonkers.
Wow. With No End House, I've been watching some of the trailers, and they're like scary.
I gotta check them out.
But psychological too. I mean, it definitely seems like they're messing with these people, and I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to watch it.
No, it's a mind scrambler. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And as always, and listen, full credit to both SyFy and Universal. They allow us to hire these directors with who I think in the 3 cases of our first 3 seasons. Among them, they just directed like 2 movies and a pilot.
Wow.
In other words, it was really more about finding people whose aesthetics seemed to match the story and who had a certain kind of vision. And Nick is really rigorous about that. I mean, he's really basically curating it in a way. And what's great about it is that they took a leap of faith with us, a big leap on the first one. And I think because it worked out so well, it was a little easier to say, okay, here's this other guy, a new director. He's going to be fast, and they're on board. So that's been really nice. It helps that we managed to keep the budget very low.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that affords you a lot of creative freedom. So that's been great. And I think you see it on screen. No End House will look like nothing else you'll see on TV. By the way, except maybe Twin Peaks a little bit. I mean, Nick is a huge fan of the show, and in fact, he was shooting the third one in Winnipeg, and I remember texting him after the 8th episode saying, "This one's going to blow your mind," and he actually said, "I'm stopping because I'm going to come home and binge them," and he literally just sat down and watched like 10 hours in a row.
Wow, that's awesome.
He loves it, and that was we love talking about that, and that's why it was so much fun. For one of the reasons it was so much fun for us to work together. So, and I never even thought about it, but you can see kind of certain creative influences from Twin Peaks that you now see here. And oddly enough, certain things in No End House that almost anticipated the new things that David was doing in 3. I mean, there's an interesting intersection between the shows that I think is definitely there.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everybody who's listening to check it out. I can't wait to watch it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's well worth it.
Well, thank you, Harley. Thank you for your time, and we'll be looking forward to the next Channel Zero.
My pleasure. I'll be watching. I hope you will be too.
Thank you, Harley. And that was an awesome interview. It was so great that Bookmark, having him in the beginning of season 3 and then the ending of season 3.
Yeah.
It's really special to have him. And, we did this all on purpose. In a week, I believe next week, we're going to have Mark Givens back on, and we're going to do the end of season 3 predictions.
We're also going to have
a special guest.
You'll
keep it a secret. Let's keep it a mystery.
Do you want to keep it a mystery?
Hashtag keep the mystery alive, Ben.
Well, we're going to have a Twin Peaks actor. How's
that?
We'll have another Twin Peaks actor on the show next week.
Next week. With Mark Givens from Deer Meadow Radio. His show is on hiatus because he really wanted to enjoy season 3 without interrupting himself. He really wanted to take it all in.
Yeah.
So he talks about when his show might be coming back, and we go back into our prediction box and we see who came out the winner, which probably is none of us, but we'll find out next week. So, Ben, right now, TeePublic, we have one shirt that will be leaving our TeePublic merch store. It is the Mr. C Over the Top. It will be leaving come October 1st.
Oh, that's a good one.
I
really
know.
like that a lot.
Very popular. Get it now while you can. You can get a t-shirt. You can get other items, stickers, cell phone case, whatever. So go on there right now. It's in the show notes, the link. Also, if you visit www.twinpeaksunwrapped.com, that link lives right there. And we're always tweeting. We're shooting on Facebook. You'll find the link somehow.
Yeah. And Bryon, talking about things I want to buy, the Twin Peaks Season 3 DVD is been announced.
Yeah, by David Lynch himself.
December 5th. It's gonna make it. We're gonna get it before Christmas.
Yeah. I've already canceled Showtime.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna hold on to it, but now that I know this is coming,
you're not gonna watch The Affair, or you're not gonna watch.
No, I don't watch anything on Showtime, but Twin Peaks. But no, this is so exciting.
Yes, I can't wait to see what's in it. It's clear that I know there's going to be probably some documentaries on the making of.
We might get to see your beautiful face on there.
Let's hope not. Yeah, I mean, it was great to be part of the promos, but we don't need to see me anymore.
No, how cool, Ben, is if that segment, Millington, will be on there, and your interview will be forever.
My 1 second.
Your 1 second will forever be part of Twin Peaks history.
That'd be crazy.
How cool is that? Would the 16-year-old version of yourself be jumping for joy to know that?
Yes. I think the 16-year-old version of me has been very ecstatic all year long.
Yes.
To have gone to the fest, to be able to see 2017 Twin Peaks, to just be a part of the community. It's been exciting. The cover says Season 3. There's no The Return on there.
It's interesting. Everyone's saying that. Now, we just had Sabrina on last week.
Right.
But in the interview...
What she says is like, it's like Showtime tacked on the idea of The Return. It was never called The Return by David Lynch or by anybody else. It was always just called Twin Peaks. And Mark Frost had said the same thing. It was never called The Return. It was just called Twin Peaks. But it was funny for Sabrina to have the script right there. And it's like, can you tell if it's on the script? And there was no cover page.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
And, what happened was, I think in one of my questions, I referred to it as The Return, and she just stopped me and said, it is not The Return, it's just Twin Peaks.
Right. But then you can say it's Season 3, right? It's just a continuation.
We can say it's Season 3. I mean, I think we all knew that all along, but I think Showtime has a thing called marketing. They have to market a product. And if you say The Return, people know, oh, Twin Peaks is coming back?
Right.
That's cool. But if you just heard Twin Peaks, they're worried about confusion. Now, the diehard fans, they're going to know what's going on, but maybe someone else doesn't.
I think The Return was a great because it did feel like Cooper was returning to the world, and it was a story about his journey. So I mean,
it's good connection there. I think it was good marketing on Showtime's part. Also, it doesn't say a limited time event because it was a limited time event for Showtime.
Right.
That event is now over. So why would that be in the box set? And we don't know. Maybe there could be a fourth season 5 years from now, 6 years from now.
Maybe. David Lynch talks about, I mean, he was asked, and he said, well, if we did do another season, it would take a few years to do.
Yeah, maybe
Which
a movie.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe
I'll take anything.
I'll take anything, yeah.
I'll take a book, I'll take a movie, I'll take a cartoon, I'll take a comic book.
Yeah, and it was a limited time event because this was an event we're not going to be like, well, next summer we get to do it again.
Right.
It was an event.
And we all took it as an event.
Yeah.
I think so many of us fans, we tuned in every Sunday. Whereas other shows, I can wait. Both you and I, months will go by.
Oh, years.
Years will go by. And it's like, I wanted to watch that show. I'm just getting around to it. Like, I have a TiVo, a DVR, and I just record stuff. And, maybe next summer I'll get to it or something like that.
I mean, it took me 5 years to watch Game of Thrones.
But with Twin Peaks, you had to watch it that day, that night.
Yeah. It was must-see TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the cover? I mean, so you have this cover of
Mr. C,
and the other half is Cooper, and it's one.
It makes total sense.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
I don't mind
Some
it.
Some people didn't like it. I thought it was a cool cover.
Yeah.
It actually kind of worked with the whole thing with the Blu-ray box with Laura's face, where it's like, I think she's wrapped in plastic and dead, and then the other one maybe she's alive.
It's the prom photo.
So are you getting it as a Christmas present? Or are you gonna try to get it?
I'm buying it day of, Ben.
No.
Midnight release.
I
hope at the local Best Buy.
So we have a busy few months. We're gonna have next month Mark Frost book, and in December we'll have the Blu-ray DVD.
So January, well, plenty to talk about.
I also we haven't talked about the soundtracks. You got 2 soundtracks for Twin Peaks that came out.
Yes, I picked them both up. Did you get a chance to get them?
So I have Apple Music, and so I've been listening to what is available. They don't make them all.
I know.
So I don't know. I'm trying to wait out and see, will they make all the songs available?
They will over time, but the problem is, I think because it's different artists, Apple Music might not have the rights. You might be able to buy it on iTunes.
Yes.
It's 2 separate things.
Well, here's the problem, like Out of Sand there.
Yeah.
I can't buy it unless I buy the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably will end up. It's so funny. I love Twin Peaks. Why have I not bought this yet?
Why are you waiting?
I think the only reason I was waiting is, I already have it, part of it on Apple Music, and I keep thinking it'll just become available. But you know what? I really did like Out of Sand. I probably will pick it up soon.
As much as I love streaming services and I love iTunes and all, I will recommend you get the physical CDs for both of these.
Physical CD?
Because they're beautiful covers. The insert is really nice. The CD itself is nice. And you could still get it on iTunes Music for free because you pay for the subscription. But at the same time, you can have a nice physical version, and they're nice to have. I totally recommend
And
them.
you got both albums?
Yes. And I went one place, they only had 1 copy of The Roadhouse. Bought it. Then I traveled to another place that was a half an hour away. They had 1 copy of just, the Badamente and the instrumental stuff. I bought that. And they literally had 1 copy. Like, I was thinking about you. I'm like, I could get one for Ben if he hadn't gotten one yet. But it was 1. That was it. Like, it was so hard to find.
Wow.
It's hard because CDs they're kind of going away.
Right.
So
everybody has
rough.
devices. Everybody has phones now that they can just listen to their music.
I highly recommend the CDs or the vinyls.
Yes.
You can get them off Amazon, and you could try to find them at a brick and mortar store, but they're tough.
Yes.
I thought. Anyway, I had a tough time.
So I probably will pick them up. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I just felt like I had half the albums on my...
I got them both on both my phones. So I can listen to my car, and at home, I can crank it up on the CD, and I can get my green glove and start punching and have it skip. They really, for Halloween, it'd be really cool, like a Freddy Halloween glove, just a green glove.
Yes.
Like a Hulk glove.
Hulk glove, right. I love it.
Just start punching things.
Awesome.
So, with that being said, we have community feedback, Ben. We do this week. David Davis. He wrote to us on YouTube, so we thank everybody on YouTube. You guys mentioned Nadu/Diane being in the White Lodge and helping Cooper earlier in the season. I didn't take that as the White Lodge. This is interesting. More of a transportational stop. If Cooper was in the waiting room post Black Lodge and Diane had been taken to the convenience store, I don't see how they would have met at or got to the White Lodge. Granted, it's purple environment and the bell looking thing that Nadu flips the switch, the AC/DC switch, is the very least similar to the bell the fireman turns off in Part 8. But I don't think they're one and the same. I may very well be wrong, though. Thank you guys very much for a wonderful podcast to enjoy all summer long. So I kind of agree that this purple place was this transportational area. I don't know where it lands in the lodges. I mean, how do you feel about the purple area?
I still like to think of it as the White Lodge, maybe just because it'd be kind of fun to think that we got to see the Black Lodge in the original series.
I feel like the White Lodge was where the fireman was.
I feel like that's all one place. I feel
the
like...
purple place seems like this like weird cube in the middle of space with the... Remember? It was like this... And it had... Well, first it was over water. It looked like a castle. And then she jumps out, and she was in a different place.
I swear when we went to see
I gotta watch it again.
The fireman, we saw the purple place again, and then they went in. I swear it was the same purple place.
Maybe.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I hear what this person who wrote in is saying. It is hard to tell. I mean, we don't have any definitive answer about this.
And we never will.
And never will.
Yeah.
And it is hard to say with, is it Nadu?
Yeah.
Yeah, why would she be there? How did she get to that spot? I don't know.
You know, I really, before my Showtime subscription ends, I really want to watch episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then go right to 16, 17, 18. Like, and just skip the middle part and just see how that flows. Some people are doing that right now. I don't. The whole syncing of episodes, it's wonderful and all.
It was interesting, but I don't think
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it.
And Sabrina's come out and said,
Sabrina Sutherland said no, that's not it.
I feel like there's a rhythm.
And there's parallels. I mean, you
Yes.
definitely see that in 17, 18, that there's things that are kind of matching and mirroring each other.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I don't think the proper way is to watch 2 episodes synced up. But I'm wondering if you kind of like fold in that middle part, get rid of the middle stuff and watch those 6 episodes, how that would flow.
Yeah.
Because you know what happens in the middle. We all know what happens. Yeah.
Well, so in the next week, Blue Rose magazine will be coming out. I got my subscription.
The Dougie subscription.
Dougie subscription. That should be coming in the mail. And so when that gets in the mail, we're gonna have that guide for the first 10 parts.
Yeah, very
by
cool.
John Thorne. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that guide and I'm just gonna start rewatching from the beginning. So I want to start with part 1.
Nice.
Maybe I might even just take it really slow. And just maybe that'll get me up to the DVDs and stuff. Maybe the first 10 parts will get me to December. Who knows?
Maybe.
But like I'll just take it slow and enjoy what John wrote about it, and just But I understand some people might want to skip around. I mean, there's so many good parts.
Like David Lynch said, you could watch it all out of order, and I kind of feel like maybe you could just take the stuff you want from it. So that being said, please rate and leave us a review on iTunes. We're doing very well in the iTunes charts. We're still on the top 200. We love it. We thank you. We appreciate it. And who knows, maybe we'll show up in that news and noteworthy area. I always look to see if we'll show up there.
I always wonder if you have to pay for that. Like, is that going to be anybody that gets that?
I don't think you have to pay for it. I have people I follow on Twitter, their shows, they'll post, oh, look, we made it. So maybe.
You never know, that'd be cool.
Also, we're on Google Play. We're on Stitcher. We're on YouTube. We appreciate the YouTube comments. Thank you. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. If you want to hear any late-breaking news, please follow us on social media, because the moment we hear something, we're posting it. Like the release of the DVDs, the soundtrack. So if you want quick news on Twin Peaks, please subscribe to us.
Yeah, whether it be
you got Twitter, I got Facebook.
Events, we also try to put up events. If there's things going on related to Twin Peaks events, we'll try to post as well.
Yep. And don't forget, we got the merch sales going on right now. We got Over the Top. Get it now before it's gone October 1st. And with that being said, Ben, anything else?
I think that's it for this week.
So we'll be back next week with Mark Gibbons from Dear Metal Radio.
And a Twin Peaks actor.
Ooh.